So let's say that your specific person ghosted you. That's okay, because in this video, we're gonna resurrect them. And truly, it doesn't matter how long you've been ghosted, if it's been years, months, days, however long, if you act all four of these steps out, you are going to see a difference in your reality. And so step one of this is understanding that it actually doesn't matter. I know right now it feels like being ghosted is something that's permanent and we're worried about it. We feel like we have to change and alter everything, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because everything is changeable. Basically, it's not permanent. Remember, in your reality, it's just reflecting your current state of being. And so if you become or act as someone else, basically embody a different state, you're going to see a complete difference. So I would not worry if right now you feel ghosted, because in this video, of course, we're going to change it, but this is not something that has to take a long time either. Everything is always in relation to the way in which we're perceiving it in our reality. So if you feel like it's going to take a long time, then that's what it's going to take based on our state. But if right now you can understand it's not permanent, every manifestation is just a destination that we're getting to, then you'll be able to alter everything and manifest that text or that call or that date, whatever you want, breaking no contact and undoing this ghosting, resurrecting them. Number two is we need to diminish this idea of ghosting. So when you say ghosting or I'm ghosted or they ghosted me, how do you feel? I would say that you probably don't feel great, right? When I hear the word ghost, it has a very intense emotional connection to it. And so if we want to change the way in which we interact with our reality and we change our state, then we can't have this really intense negative emotional concept that we're using to describe it. And so instead, what you can do is, well, a couple things that you could do. One is describe it as something else. So it's not ghosting, it's space to grow. It's not ghosting, it's a pause for perspective. It's not ghosting, it's a natural unfolding. And at first, this might seem like it makes no sense or no difference. But when you think of a pause for perspective or space to grow or a natural unfolding, it feels much different than being ghosted. Being ghosted, think of a ghost, right? You're never going to be able to interact or talk to a ghost ever again. And so if we're describing our situation as that, we're going to take upon all of the limiting beliefs that have to do with the concept of ghosting. But if instead we describe it as something else, because I guarantee you it's actually a bridge of events taking you to your manifestation, if we could describe it as that, we're going to see that occur in our reality. As well as this, we're going to do something called reframing. So reframing is taking exactly what's happening in our reality, unlike revision, and we're just going to see or ask the question of what's great about this, because everything happening is actually taking you to your manifestation, whether you think so or not. And so this is no difference. I know it sounds strange to think that ghosting or being ghosted or having this space to grow, right, is actually taking you to your manifestation, but it absolutely is. And so the way in which we can reframe it is, remember, they're not ghosting you. They're giving you space to upgrade. And I wrote a couple examples of this down. It's not ghosting. It's a test of your self-worth. You're not ghosted. You're free from your old sense of self. They didn't ghost you. They're creating an opportunity for you to be pursued. And I especially like the last one, but you can reframe it to literally anything that you want. Because honestly, if you wanted your specific person to chase after you, to obsess over you, how could we do that if this didn't occur? And I know it's strange to think, okay, so we're looking at our reality as it is and thinking, how is this working out in my favor? How's it going to help my manifestation? But by doing this, you begin to see how a natural unfolding is taking place, and it's actually bringing you to your manifestation. Because ask yourself, before being ghosted, were we having anxiety? Were we overthinking? Were we worrying? We'd probably say yes, just a little bit. And so we know that state isn't going to take us where we want to go. So we know the ghosting then is this place in order for us to move back and take this state of being pursued, right? It's a time for you to become the individual that you already want to be in your end state. And without this space, there would be no time and effort for you to do this. You would accidentally reiterate or create the same things over and over again. And yes, by changing the way in which we describe it, we change our emotional attachment to it. And manifestation and law of assumption is all connected to the way in which we feel. And so by changing our state or association to it, we change our internal sense of self or internal embodiment, and then you manifest something different. So in essence, your manifestation cannot remain at this distance from this state of being. By you thinking and acting as if everything is working out in your favor, then everything must work out in your favor. So basically, when you start to think of ghosting as something that works out for you, you actually cannot be ghosted. And I know I shouldn't even describe it as that because we already discussed why, but it's impossible to be ghosted in this state when you know it's something that works out for you, because manifestation doesn't work on what you want. It works on what you are and your state of being at any point in time. And so if you can change this assumption or connection, basically the value you're placing on it, then everything will change and manifest in accordance to the way you feel. Number 3, or the third step in this, is to stop chasing. So right now we're putting a lot of attention on this idea that our specific person is not messaging us, right? But what does that do for us? And this is something I actually talk about in a lot of my coaching sessions because it doesn't do anything for us, right? When you're constantly trying to chase after your specific person, chase after them, text them, call them, what state of embodiment are we feeling internally? And we would say we're not feeling that good at all, right? We're feeling as if we have to prove ourselves. We're feeling as if we have to do something to get what we want. We're feeling as if we have to put in all this effort and energy and things like that. But your manifestation can be so much easier than all of that combined, right? If you start to act as someone who is pursued, just like I mentioned, this is the whole reason why you're actually experiencing this at all, then you'll see your specific person bridge all of those circumstances and bridge all of those gaps, because you can absolutely act and be as someone who is pursued, and your specific person will immediately chase you. There is no difference or separation or things that have to happen in between. And I would say, again, look at this in the positive and think, if this wasn't occurring, we wouldn't have space to then act or change our sense of self. It's kind of like the idea that when you're really seemingly close to what you want, you could keep trying to push and further whatever state you're in, right? So we would try to text more, call more. Actually, it was on the, started a coaching session with someone who would said they called their specific person 100 times. And if you think about that, think of taking the state of embodiment of calling your specific person 100 times. Why would you do this? Who would do this? And we would say someone who needs this attention and feels like attention from their specific person is kind of in a lack. And so how could you ever manifest more communication if we're feeling as if we're in a lack? And the answer is we won't ever change anything, because you manifest what you are and not what you want. The more you try to force your reality, the more you remain kind of in that same exact state of being. And so that's something that we need to alter and change, which we can do based on doing all this. So stop chasing anything, any concept, any idea, any thought process of you chasing or doing something to go get your specific person. Let that go. Completely let it go. Yes, your logical mind will probably want to fight against this, but it's not helping us, right? It's the only reason that we are actually in a state of no communication in the first place. And then lastly, I want you to pick a particular mindset or thought process, because I know in the past or right now, we're probably thinking of how much time has gone in between our specific person messaging us, but we need to focus on something that we want instead, because you don't realize it, but throughout the day, you are having a lot of mental conversations that are in accordance to something we don't want. And most of the time we just kind of let it go. Even Neville Goddard would talk about it in a lot of his lectures. He would talk about people's internal conversations and dialogues. We almost completely forget about those, right? If I were to ask you what a lot of your internal dialogue was yesterday, would you have an answer for me? And you probably say, well, no. But now you can start to pay attention and realize that we accidentally focus on where we don't want to go as compared to where we do. So we just need to affix onto some concept, imaginative act, and idea of what we want instead, and then we're going to see a difference. And so here's a few examples of this. Imagine your specific person blowing up your phone. So picture your SB anxiously texting you, anxiously calling you, realizing they miss your energy and presence. This is going to bridge that gap. As well as think of their heart racing at the thought of you. I really like this one. See them lying in bed at night, replaying your conversations, missing the connection. This is another way to bridge that gap. Think of them nervously typing and deleting a message. I also really like this one because it also reframes or adds to this idea that everything is working out for us. Imagine them drafting a text but hesitating, unsure how to approach you again. And then lastly, another one, and you could think of a million. You could even comment some down below because I could come up with 100 more ideas of this. Imagine them standing at your doorstep wanting to reconnect. So see them showing up unexpectedly, wanting to explain and fix things. And so how do you feel in relation to these ideas? And I'll tell you, even stating them in this video makes me feel more jacked up, right? Makes me feel more excited, more happy, more abundant, basically all the emotions and feelings that we would want in our end state. And so if you feel better thinking upon these things, why do we ever think upon anything else? Because we're not going to get the results we want focusing on why they're not messaging us, right? That's a problem that our current sense of self and our state cannot solve. But if instead you focus on where you want to go, again, so I'll say it again, them standing at your doorstep, them nervously typing and deleting a message, their heart racing at the thought of you, or your phone blowing up, if you think of that, that puts you into the state. And I know our logical mind wants to fight against this, but what has your logical mind done for you so far, right? It's done the opposite, right? It's created this idea or space in between where we feel like our specific person is not messaging us. It made us feel like this could somehow be permanent, but it's not. I've helped so many people out of ghosting, and it doesn't have to take a long time. Even if you've been waiting years or months or weeks or however long, longer than you could ever imagine, by acting these out, you're going to see a difference. But each one in their own way is going to be helpful. So let's just do a quick kind of review of everything. So first is remember, it doesn't matter. It is not permanent. I know it feels permanent. It's not going to stay this way. Two, we need to diminish ghosting. So we need to reduce our emotional threshold of it. Otherwise, we're going to completely think of the negative forever. So that's describing it as someone else. So this is space to grow. It's not ghosting. Or reframing. You're not ghosted. You're free of your old sense of self. That's a million times way better way to view it. Then as well, stop chasing and then begin to act or think of the outcome that you want instead of the outcome you don't. Basically the concept of being pursued. Because when we're chasing, how are we ever going to get them to text us if we're chasing them, right? It's kind of, I know it sounds strange, but they actively respond to us in the way that we are acting without a doubt. So if you're chasing them, they have to act pursued. If you act pursued, they then have to be the ones chasing you. But here's an example of someone who did this in a coaching session. Actually they were in the coaching session, but we were watching one of my videos when it happened. So this person wrote, "Hey Kyle, I received your email last week after having not spoken to my specific person for a week. And then I watched your live feed last week and he started texting and talking to me again in the middle of it. He also came over and we had a great or good time, but we could describe it as a great time, right? So think of that. Over a week, no message. And I know everyone in the comments, yeah, but I've been ghosted for longer. Yeah, this is just an example. I've had people, I could bring up examples of years of no contact and their specific person. One I'm thinking of in particular, their specific person showed up at their door. So if that's something that you want, I would definitely imagine or think upon that specific imaginative act of them waiting at your doorstep. But either way, think of this. Think of how quickly they were able to change it. So ghosting isn't permanent, right? Not being in contact with your specific person isn't permanent. It's only permanent to the state. And I keep bringing this up because it's so perfect, but it's always like the actor and actress metaphor, right? If you are assuming or acting as a specific individual, that's the script you're going to get. And so if you're placing and scripting in your reality that your specific person is someone who's ignoring you, that's what we're going to receive. But instead, focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. You're going to see a total difference. You're going to resurrect your specific person, okay? That's what we're going to do. So if you did have any questions on this, make sure to comment them down below. If you did have any questions as well that you didn't want to post publicly but wanted to send them over to me, head over to kyleaugustcoaching.com. As well as this, thank you so much for stopping by today. I know I said I wanted to do a video every other day, but I kind of want to post a video every single day regardless if everyone's able to see it or not, because I absolutely love making this content. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video tomorrow.